Well, my name's Suzanne Lawrence, and I completed the Narconon program way back in 1976.
Suzanne, would you say that Narconon saves lives?
It certainly saves lives, and it certainly saved mine.
Well, I was on drugs for about 5 years, but I would like to say that before that, when I was a bit younger, I was actually an international swimmer, and I swam for Great Britain. So it's kind of odd that a few years after that I ended up starting to smoke, having been very, very fit, and then eventually living in London and going to the Isle of Wight Festival, which was the place that I very first took marijuana. And from there on, it was a downward trend. Up to that point, I was still fairly fit, and I was living life and enjoying it. And then I started smoking marijuana. So it was totally okay amongst people of my own age to do drugs. And it seemed to be a solution to something. You have a problem in life and you can't deal with it, or you feel sad, or you've lost your family, and somebody comes along and says, well, have a joint, you'll feel better. Makes it very, very easy to think, oh yeah, I want to feel better. So you take the joint, or you snort the sulfate, which is what I used to do. So that's how it was for me in those days. I used to get together with lots and lots and lots of people, and we'd sit in a room and somebody get the marijuana out, or get a few lines of sulfate out, or bring the coke out, and everybody would start using it and laughing and thinking it was the greatest thing since sliced bread, without realising what the consequences were going to be in the future. And 5 years later, I had the feeling that I was dying. And I was very lucky in that I met someone who knew about the Narconon program and introduced me to it at that time.
You know, I did the program in 1976, and the program still works. You don't use drugs on the program, and it works, and it has done ever since it was first evolved. So here I am, so many years later, since 1976, completely rehabbed. I have no attention on drugs whatsoever, and all I can say is thank you, L. Ron Hubbard, because it worked.
Although I have to admit, when I finished the program and I graduated, and all the guys gathered round to congratulate me to finishing it, I felt like $1 million. That's how it makes you feel. And the rest of life, you get the rest of the $1 million. Well, in terms of bad effect, to be honest, no. I mean, sometimes you might think, well, somebody's not going to employ me if I've been a druggie. But in actual fact, what happens with me is, when people find out that I've been a drug addict, they look at me and say, no, you don't look as if you've ever taken a drug. And I say, oh, but that's the speciality of the Narconon program. When it's finished, you really do get rehabilitated. And rehabilitated is that return to former condition. So I'm as bright and shiny as I ever was before I took drugs. I did have the opportunity to work with Mr. Benitez. I was with him for 3 days when we were opening a Narconon program in a place called Shalocco in the United States. And I think probably the thing that struck me the most about Mr. Benitez was the way he cared. And I think that was one of the things that made the program, when he first started running it in a prison, successful. He really cared about people, and he cared about you as an individual. And when he heard about my completing the Narconon program, he validated me a lot, and I could see in his eyes that he was really happy that something he'd done had made it possible for me to change my life. So I think Mr. Benitez certainly did something that's really changed drug rehabilitation and made drug-free rehabilitation available, and taking Mr. Hubbard's technology and making it usable in prisons and usable in residential centres. So I have a lot to answer. I have a lot to say thank you to Mr. Benitez for, a lot. Well, I'm enjoying life as a pensioner, believe it or not. I'm 61 years of age. So at the moment I'm thoroughly enjoying myself with a painting hobby which I started years ago, which I always wanted to do before I got into drugs. So now I'm realising that. I became a dancer, I've done acting. I really love my painting. That's my passion at the moment, is my painting. But I'm also a writer, and I've been published, and I've written articles that have been published on on the drug scene and getting out of drugs and saying no to drugs, because that's a really good answer when someone offers it, is to say no thank you, because it really is not good for you to do it. And life can be very wide ranging. I've had a wonderful career. I've been in public relations, I've been in advertising, I've been in sales, and I've had a wonderful life. I have 2 wonderful children, lovely husband at the time, and things are just really, really good.
What's really nice is sometimes you see a person come through the programme and their whole artisticness comes out.
Yes.
And they start doing things that are artistic. And I'm no exception. I'm now really an artist and I enjoy it.